Hello, everyone. My name is Mo Al-Sumidai, and I'm here with the Clinical Trial Vanguard, and we're here at the Veeva R&D Quality Summit in Madrid. And I have here with me Marta-Jureczko-Hinzmann, and she is the Senior Director of Global Clinical Solutions at AstraZeneca. Pleasure to have you here.
That's correct. Thank you for having me here.
Pleasure. So some of the things we want to discuss here is some of the challenges you're facing in sponsor site communications and collaboration. And at AstraZeneca, what led you to seek a more streamlined or connected solution to better communicate and collaborate with study
Mhm.
sites?
So let me start by saying that at AstraZeneca, we do have bold ambition. This bold ambition is connected to 2030, when we want to, by this time, we want to bring to the market 20 new medicines and be carbon negative. And I think that those 20 new medicines speaks volumes about our priorities. So clinical trial are in the heart of this bold ambition. And how can we do it? So first of all, the sponsor site collaboration must be as good as possible. And of course, you can tackle it from different perspectives, because from the investigator side perspective, the um, clinical trials are long, are complex because of the increasing complexity, not only stemming from trial design, but also from increasing technology. Uh, Not only the technology itself, but also the number of technologies that patients and sites are facing. So we can have here two strategies, or rather combination of those two strategies. Either we can focus on technologies that are TA, therapeutic area specific. So in that case, you can imagine that, as example, cardiovascular clinical trials and sites participating in these trials will have one RTSM, one ECOA. Yeah, so that would be one simplification. But you can also go one step further, which means implementation of strategies that are therapeutic area agnostic. I would even say even more, that are sponsor agnostic. In that way, the site experience, it would be actually one experience regardless of the therapeutic area and regardless of the sponsor. One of the examples of such technology is Site Connect, and we in AstraZeneca we implemented Site Connect for safety letters distribution.
And so can you tell me a bit more about INDSR and distribution, you know, and other sort of site-facing
Mhm.
processes that you've implemented using this technology?
I think that the key point here is to understand how the process was done before the implementation.
Mm.
It was highly manual process based on a email notification, and if I give you some of the numbers, then you can better understand how complex it is. We are talking about 4,500 sites, more than 3,000 ethics committees, more than 10 millions of notifications each year. If you imagine that it was done manually, it's kind of, the burden is visible not only on the sponsor end, but also on the site end, on the investigators end. So what we did with Site Connect is we changed the entire way of how safety reports are distributed. So we basically automated it and reduced those manual steps by 70%, which is kind of impressive, I would
For
say.
10 million notifications,
Yes,
that's a
yes,
huge
yes,
amount.
and 4,500 sites. Yes,
Mhm.
so it's actually impressive. But if you think about the complexity, because it's not only about the safety report, it's also about the country regulation. Each country, and we are talking about 80 plus countries, they will have different legal requirements when it comes to safety notifications. Moreover, a site within one country can have different requirements than an ethics committee in the same country. Yes, so the complexity here is huge. And the more we automate such
Mhm.
processes, the better. not only for the sponsor, but also for the investigator.
And so how do you, from a quality standpoint, then, I mean, you send it to the sites, and
Yes.
then it's from the site's perspective and the monitors
Hmm.
really to make sure that has been submitted to the IRB. And do you integrate any of that with the IRBs? And how do you customize those
Hmm.
workflows for each countries?
Hmm. Yeah, so it was actually the biggest chunk of our project when we implemented the Site Connect. What we've done, first of all, we have to collect all the requirements for specific country and specific ethics committees, because sometimes ethics committees, they may have very different requirements than in general in a country. So this was our first step. The second step was to set up Site Connect in a way that everything is done in an automated way. So basically, the safety reports flow from the safety database, which is integrated with Site Connect. And then with all those rules that are embedded within the system for specific country, they are going to the site. And then the ball is on the uh, site. So the investigator has to acknowledge, not only review the report, but also acknowledge the report. And you mentioned the site monitor. Yes, so previously the site monitor had to visit the site. It has to be a planned on-site visit just to check if in the investigator's file each report is filed, acknowledged by the investigator. Now it's all gone. Yes, so the site monitor basically just log into the system, so does the same as the investigator, checks if the reports had been delivered and if the investigator acknowledged it. If not, of course, there's an action, the following action, but all is done remotely.
Mhm.
It has so the site monitor can focus really on the on more on more important things at the site, not just to check the ISF. Yes.
Mhm. Mhm. And so with these types of workflows and technologies and efficiencies, of course, comes more time,
Hmm.
different sort of roles and responsibilities,
Hmm.
not getting stuck into the manual aspect, the what I call the brain numbing aspect
Hmm.
of operations, right? So, like, since implementing this new collaboration model, what changes have you seen in your relationship with the study sites
Hmm.
and also within your team, the
Hmm.
people who are processing those
Hmm.
INDSRs?
Yes. So, well, actually, there's a long list of benefits that we observed, starting from the site. Now, I already mentioned it, but I think it's worth to emphasize that investigator has now one place. Yes. So, and if the Site Connect is used in AstraZeneca, we currently use Site Connect only for safety letters distribution. But if Site Connect is used for the for at the full scale, so for the entire documents exchange, then the investigator uses only Site Connect. Yes, so it's very in terms of streamlining the entire document process at the site. This is a true game changer. The same for Site Monitor. Yes, so so Site Monitor again needs to have only access to Site Connect and just to distribute the documents to a specific site. And it can be distributed to all sites at once at any in any given study, or only at one site, yes, or just selected sites. One of the also benefits that we observed, actually, I would like to mention two benefits that were not that obvious, kind of hidden, is that while implementation of Site Connect, we actually discovered that we can go one step further with having absolutely the same process for all AstraZeneca and Alexion studies, regardless of the delivery model, because the process that I described previously was applicable for internally led studies. For outsourced portfolio, the process was different. So the CRO was responsible for the onward distribution to ethics committees and investigators. While here, we had the infrastructure, so we have the system, we had the central team within Global Clinical Solutions. So it was just you know, this idea was kind of flourishing when we started the project, but now we are actually doing it. So we are transitioning the safety reports distribution in outsourced portfolio to AstraZeneca, and there are a lot of benefits from it. Again, the site will have one experience regardless of the delivery model. The GCS team will have so Global Clinical Solution team at AstraZeneca will be able to monitor the entire process, also from compliance perspective, which is very important, especially when you think about the inspections. And one of the cost avoidance as well, that is something I bet everyone is kind of interested in. And additional, the fourth benefit, this one was really hidden, is that we were able to change the profile of the service. So we developed actually people. So from the work that they did 100% manual, now they became business administrators for a specific country. So they are responsible for the stakeholders management with patient safety and with local teams. So that was this hidden, shiny thing, which was a huge benefit.
Mhm. It is nice when you see these unexpected
Mhm.
changes with the implementation of technology. What I've experienced is that, you know, people say, "Oh, yeah, it's supposed to save you time," but people still spend the same amount of time, although
Mhm.
that time doing what I call
Mhm.
mind-numbing work is now turned into something a lot more productive.
Mhm.
So they're still spending time, but they're doing something completely different.
Yes.
And so was that like a surprise for you?
Well, it was because we've never thought that we will dramatically decrease the team because of implementation of Site Connect, um, because the team was already centralized. So now they not only will have, I mean, with bringing outsourced studies in house when it comes to safety letter distribution, they will have more work, but that's about the productivity gains we are all, looking for. Yes. And I think you mentioned something very interesting about implementation of new technologies. We always think about the benefits that will realize in 1 year, 2 years. But I think that we very often tend to forget that to be able to get to these benefits, a lot of work must be done. Yes, change management, difficulties, because when you implement technology on such a large scale, it cannot be perfect. It
Mhm,
simply cannot be perfect at just like that after the go live. Yes. So I think that pharmaceutical companies, that when they plan some transformational R&D project, it must be said very clearly that it will be better, but it might be that in the there will be a period of time that it will be harder actually,
mhm,
which is natural. Yes,
mhm.
there's nothing bad in it.
So then from a change management
Hmm.
standpoint, right, what advice would you give to other big pharma
Hmm.
companies to implement this type of change, to support, to bring that environment where people can make that
Hmm.
change and actually successfully implement it in an environment which is naturally conservative? When you're in a big company,
That's true.
you don't want to take the risks because you're operating at
Hmm.
scale, right? So how do you create an environment and how do you successfully
Hmm.
implement these technologies and in change management from that perspective?
It depends. I know that it's not a right answer to start answering the question, but actually it depends what kind of strategy of implementation you select, because you can always select 1 to 3 studies as a pilot, and then the change management activities are focused only on like 2, 3, 5 study teams, right? Seems seems pretty easy, but actually it's not. It's not, because other study teams needs to work in. You will have to maintain two processes. So it might be that one study team in one study will have new process, while in other an old process, right? So it's not that obvious that a pilot is easier when it comes to change management. When you go at scale and when you do the big bang, which we by the way did with safety letter distribution at AstraZeneca, the change management activities, I would say, and it's probably not a rocket science, plan for it very early in the project. Invite stakeholders that will the stakeholders and the end users, because they will tell you what they need. I think that this is the most important when you plan this, big bang approach, implementation at scale. Then I think it's also important to adjust the training, not only needs but also training time for different time zones. Yes, it's and that's the core training, the mandatory training. But then, and I would also recommend to have this drop-in sessions that are not that mandatory, but study teams or people can simply just dial in and ask specific questions. But change management is you can have fancy system. Yes, you can have super tool that does a lot of things for you just with one click. But if you are not trained, I mean, you will still use Excel trackers, yes? So that's why I think that the change management is absolutely critical, and I think that it's not it is visible. It's not usually the change management activities are not forgotten, from my experience, of course.
Marta, is there anything else you'd like to add?
In terms of collaboration, or yeah, perhaps I think when it comes to site sponsor collaboration, I think I would like to say one word: standardization. So if we can get to the point that the data points in clinical trials will be collected in a standard way, even within one sponsor, but of course in the industry that would be a huge impact. That would mean that we will accelerate clinical trials significantly and bring drugs to patients, not in a quicker. Yes, it will accelerate the entire process. So yes, standardization.
Well, thank you so much, Marta. It's been a pleasure. This is Marta,
I'm leading a global clinical solutions
Global Clinical Solutions. Okay.
services team. So these are teams that are focused either on study facing solutions like ECOA, RTSM, or enterprise level services like safe letter distribution, ETMF, and CTMS.
Okay, excellent. Such a pleasure. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.